Hello guys, welcome back to the possible history reaction of Golden Dragon Game. Today we're going to do a different, whereas like his view decides the tree. I'm going to watch 3 of them, alright? That is like, subscribe, and credits to him. So visit his channel and like and subscribe to him. Like and subscribe now. Please. I have 24 subscribers, maybe. I think, 26. I would like some more, but as it is, just get to the video now. I'm gonna fight. Oh, fuck it.
My subscribers to vote on the ultimate Congress of Vienna, the peace deal that ended the Napoleonic Wars. This idea was inspired by Emperor Tiger Star, who made a similar video on the Treaty of Versailles, linked below. I don't just want to steal Tiger Star's idea, so to separate myself, I will take this.
You know what would be a cool idea is like, when like World War ended, it's like, it was like, where France get the land into the Mediterranean expand east, but Denmark get land from like Germany, and like Poland get like you know the east borders of Germany, like it becomes that, right? And like Netherlands get the strip of all 3 except for the big part and a bit of land on top, and like the Ottomans land, and like the tree of like separating the Austrians would be a good
Map that you guys come up with and write out a full alternate history video, releasing this Saturday. Subscribe to be notified for that. But enough said, let's dive into that.
I think like the yellow or orangish line is like where the German Empire was on like yellow at the east, or the Roman German Empire. Yeah.
To start right off, one of the most important nations in stopping Napoleon was Russia. When Napoleon was at the peak of his power, he launched an invasion of the nation where he would lose most of his army, setting up for the final anti-Napoleon coalition, which would see his defeat. Before Napoleon's invasion, Russia looked like this, controlling a large part of the former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Now in our timeline, the Russians kept all of this Polish territory, even gaining more central Polish lands. Did you guys agree? No, you didn't. We gave you 5 choices for the future of Poland. Full annexation into Russia, full independence of Poland, restoration of a smaller Poland, the repartition of Poland, or the solution of archive. You guys clearly don't like Russia much, as by far most of you vote to restore Poland fully. This is a major slap in the face for Russia. Russia has bled and died to be a major factor in the defeat of Napoleon. In exchange, they lost many territories, which they had held long before Napoleon even invaded. During the Napoleonic Wars, Russia had also waged a war with the Ottoman Empire, expanding their Black Sea holdings. These gains they would be allowed to keep, but up north, Russia had also waged a war with Sweden, taking Finland for themselves. Is Russia allowed to keep this territory? Also no. You guys decided that Finland should become an independent state following the war. All in all, the Russians would be furious with this Congress of Vienna. Here are the alternate borders of Russia over the borders of our own timeline. Yikes. This peace deal is so unique.
Okay, I hope this gets through because I don't like it, man. Like, being connected to them, it's just annoying, okay?
Humiliating for Russia. Even if all 4 other great powers had united to demand it, Russia would likely prefer war over accepting this outcome.
A way of being is something hard to explain.
Sadly for Russia, they aren't stronger than the will of the people, and these are the borders you guys chose. Moving on, let's discuss the star of the Napoleonic Wars, France themselves. Considering how they've conquered most of Europe, destroyed nations, destabilized Europe beyond compare, and caused the death of millions, their punishment in our own timeline was very mild, barely losing any territory from their 1792 borders. But does the YouTube audience agree with this course of action, is the question. In southern France, we have the matter of Roussillon, a small bit of Catalonia controlled by France. Should France keep it? Should Spain regain it? Or, as the wildcard option, should it be given to a newly independent Catalonia, which would become a buffer state between France and Spain? You voted to create the independent state of Catalonia, meaning that France lost their first bit of territory. But the next vote would be a bit more painful, as the fate of Brittany is under review. 3 options were given.
The possible history here's this idea, where like all, well not all the time of course, but here's an idea like Austria, or like Prussia, like or like when the German Empire like became an empire, or like became a thing 150
Stay with
years
France,
earlier.
join Britain, or become an independent state. Most of you voted to restore Brittany as an independent state, breaking off the first significant piece of France. Similar votes were also held over Provence, Normandy, Alsace, Avignon and Lorraine, but in all of these cases, the people chose to keep the territory in French hands. Alsace though was very close, as the option for the territory to be divided between Switzerland and Prussia was very popular.
I think that would be a good idea, like, if the viewers chose that, I think that would be a cool
As
idea.
well. Speaking of Switzerland, you also had the option to keep them the same or expand them massively. Tragically though, you guys voted against Greater
It also some connect Edinburgh to the rest of the country, thanks Switzerland and the maximalist gives us forward.
Switzerland. But all of these votes were minor compared to the votes regarding the future of the lowlands. First, Habsburg controlled Belgium, which with a great majority was joined with the Dutch to create the United Kingdom of the Netherlands, with the Bishopric of Liège also added to the nation. Luxembourg was chosen to be in a personal union with the Dutch, while being allowed to keep Rhineland territory, which they lost to Prussia in our timeline. But all of this was child's play compared to this question. Should the Low Countries expand into France? Your options range from the Dutch gain nothing to massive Dutch expansion. There were also some options in between, but with an extremely
Say the French land Jim Flanders and
close vote, you guys decided to give the Dutch everything they could have wanted, creating this massive Dutch empire in Europe. Sorry for the quick intermission, but by far most of you aren't subscribed.
Yeah, so like and subscribe to him.
Keep up to date with the 2 videos I released.
Next time to land leaders. We're Germany United. Every war Germany is perfect country. Sarah Warlord Era 1. Subscribe to Vienna. Subscribers like Vienna Old Hill. China Warlord Era 2. Every war Russia Supercut. Perfect Japan. China
Consider this. Next up, we move on to Germany, where in our timeline, the region was heavily reorganized, cutting down on the amount of small, independent states, and very importantly, massively strengthening the Prussians. The old Holy Roman Empire was also replaced with a much more relevant and streamlined German Confederation. But how did you guys handle the region? First, the Rhineland, an extremely important region, not just in wealth and potential, but also in terms of proximity to France. There were several options between Prussia, Austria, and even France gaining major territories, or just a reset of the situation to 1792. Much like in our timeline, you elected to give the Rhineland to Prussia, finally making Prussia a true great power in size and wealth. Similarly, a very important vote was held over Saxony, where the 2 main options were a restoration and massive expansion of Saxony or the annexation of the state into Prussia. With an extremely slim majority, you voted to give the entire region to Prussia, consolidating their hold over northern Germany. But Hanover has the potential to make Prussia the definitive North German power, linking their entire nation together. The 3 options were annexation by Prussia, restoration and expansion under Britain, as we saw in our timeline, or Hanoverian independence. It was a very close race, but the British did win out in the end. To conclude northern Germany, there is the matter of Denmark, who controlled the overwhelmingly German territories of Schleswig-Holstein. With an easy majority, you guys decided to give Prussia this territory. Speaking of Denmark, they also controlled Norway, which in our timeline was awarded to Sweden as a thanks for their contributions during the war. You guys agreed that Denmark should lose Norway, but disagreed over who should get it. The option of an independent state of Norway just barely lost out to Sweden, who gained the territory. So Sweden now looks just like it does in our timeline. But unlike our timeline, the Kingdom of Norway used to include territories like Greenland and Iceland, which in our timeline would remain with Denmark after the peace deal. You guys disagreed though, and transferred these territories to Sweden as well, making Denmark pathetically small. Moving on to southern Germany, there is the major question of Bavaria. They sided with the French during the war, and the question now is, should we punish them? In our timeline, the answer was no, as they actually massively expanded. But you guys disagreed, instead giving the throne of Bavaria to the Austrians.
If you struggle with focus, this
Ah!
sound might change everything.
Finally giving Austria more German people to rule over. Interestingly, this also gives Austria a minor portion of Western Germany. Now very luckily, you guys did prevent massive border war by annexing Salzburg into Austria as well. Although, now that I look at it, I cannot really say that border war was prevented. To conclude Germany, there is the matter of the Holy Roman Empire. Destroyed during the Napoleonic Wars, should it be restored? No, you decided. Okay, should Germany unite as a Habsburg Federation? Again, surprisingly, no. You went instead with a solution of our timeline, creating a new German Confederation, binding Germany together in military alliance. Now the final border changes we need to discuss all concern Italy. In our timeline, the bulk of Italy came under direct or indirect Habsburg rule, but you guys immediately shattered this Habsburg dream by restoring the Republic of Venice, though previously held Venetian territories in the Balkan were ceded to Austria. Lombardia, which already was Austrian before the war, now becomes an independent state, expanding into Mantua as well. Now at this point, even if Austria still controls these minor Italian states, without Venetian cooperation they couldn't really do much there. But even this, you guys wouldn't give to Austria, as you further reduced their influence by expanding Sardinia-Piedmont into central Italy. This would further bolster Sardinia's new place as a major power in Europe, especially after you allowed them to not just annex Genoa, but also Corsica from France. In a complete surprise move, it was also voted that the Papal States should be abolished, instead replaced with a new Roman Republic. The South would, just like in our timeline, be united into the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies. Malta, previously held by the British, would then also be ceded to Sicily. To complete our European map, the small territory of Ragusa, which was annexed by Austria in our timeline, becomes an independent state again. To conclude, we need to zoom out to the world map again, where we focus on South Africa and Sri Lanka. They were Dutch territories before the war, but were seized by the British, since both were very important territories for their colonial dominance. You voted to keep this territory Dutch, giving the Dutch a much more important colonial role in the post-Vienna world. So, with the voting over, this is the map of Europe we've ended up with. The era of goodwill started by our timeline's Vienna doesn't exist. Prussia, Sardinia.
So a Dutch Empire versus the Lord Landry, you've got two different states. Russia is Denmark is the same, man. A weak ass fool. Sweden's a powerhouse, maybe. Finland's like Poland is still here. Finland is here too.
Victors of this timeline, with especially France and Russia furious about the new borders. How will Europe develop from here? Find out Saturday when I release the follow-up video exploring this alternate history.
Small France, Habsburg, Bavaria.
Subscribe to get notified when that releases. Now I love this concept and I hope to do more of these coupled with alternate histories. Let me know if this interests you and what you'd like me to do this with next. But for now, this is where I'll end this video. Thank you all for watching.
Okay, that was a good one. Let's see the next one. Man. Why is it?
Amazing success. After the amazing success of the Congress of Vienna has voted on by the possible history viewers, the leaders of Europe have once again called upon the brilliant viewers of the Possible History channel to carve up the African continent for them. Probably to keep you guys away from Europe this time, for pretty understandable reasons. But now, the alternate Africa is on the table, and you guys had full reign to give anything on the continent you wanted to any of these highlighted states, with some extra choices sprinkled in as well. Here is the rough map of each area you guys could decide the owner for. This time though, there wasn't just one round of voting.
Why did people say no? Oh, okay.
giving it to whoever got the most. Instead, we ran 3 rounds, eliminating the nations with the least votes until eventually someone got an absolute majority. So with that, let's dive right into round 1, where Morocco is up for grabs. Now in a surprise move, nearby Portugal managed to gain not just it, but all territory around it with an absolute majority in round 1. Very impressive Portugal. But their success doesn't just stop there. They also hold on to Angola and Mozambique while gaining all territory in between. Man, you guys are really liking Portugal. Let's fill out South Africa now, where I gave you an interesting option. The Boer republics inland could either remain independent, be annexed into British South Africa, or annex South Africa themselves. In an overwhelming display of support, the Boers didn't just get South Africa, but just about everything they had an option to get. I have to be honest, I did not expect so many majorities in the first round of voting. Let's look at North Africa next. The territories around Egypt may just be the biggest prize to give away. Who gets... Oh, come on! This is getting ridiculous. Alright, let's just speed through. West Africa, Portugal. Central Africa, Portugal. The Horn of Africa, Ethiopia actually. Interesting. Alright, but anyway, we're giving... Alright, let's just speed through. West Africa, Portugal. Central Africa, Portugal. The Horn of Africa, Ethiopia actually. Interesting. Alright, but anyway, we're giving people...
Denmark, Sweden, Germany! Spain, Israel, Italy, Austria,
more than 10 options for each region, and somehow there is a majority on each and every single one. Now, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think something is about. Turns out, some elite hackers managed to bypass my extremely good protections, mainly because I didn't really have any, which completely ruined this first round of voting. Luckily though, we know exactly what the hacker voted for. All we need to do is remove the fake votes from each question, which will take some work, but is not a week. Let's try round 1 again. Alright, let's start with Morocco again. Oh my, that is a candidate I wasn't expecting. Austria-Hungary actually secured it and the surrounding regions. That should make for an interesting alternate history. Alright, let's move on to the big prize again, Egypt, which also has a majority for Austria-Hungary. Oh come on, surely not. Yep, South Africa too, Central Africa, yep, North Africa, West Africa, East Africa, Austria, North Africa, Austria. Alright, we get it. What is going on here? Our total number of votes has exploded to a whopping 100,000. For context, we have about 80,000 subscribers right now. Out of all of these 100,000 votes, only around 2,000 were won. Nice. Alright, so I'm gonna have to use the nuclear option. I will clear out all votes and restart it without any chicanery this time. And luckily, this vote was more enjoyed than ever before, with by the end, more than 4,000 votes sent in. And to anyone who didn't get to participate in this one, don't worry. The next Europoll is already set to go. Just please, wait until the end of the video before actually filling it in. But anyway, this round 1 is nowhere near as decisive, with very few majorities as it should be. Italy has great success in North Africa, with full majorities in Tunisia and Tripoli, while having the most votes in the rest. Very impressive. But not quite as impressive as Spain, which overwhelmingly received Morocco. Now the region surrounding Morocco had the option to be annexed by whomever owns Morocco itself, which was pretty much always the most voted for, while Spain itself was the second biggest in these votes. Since Spain owns Morocco, these are pretty much the same option now. And so, after round 1, Spain manages to get a rather impressively large Moroccan colony. Now Algeria is a funny story. You see, France already owns Algeria, and not just as a colony, but as a full part of France itself. By an extremely slim margin, you guys decided that France should lose control over Algeria, but you were divided over who should take it instead. The Algerian desert did have a clear winner though. France! I gotta applaud you guys for this one. What an absolute classic prank you guys pulled on France. Now, this does put France in a rather uncomfortable position, as they do win quite a few states in the Sahel as well. Let's just hope round 2 gives them a coastline somewhere. Now, Moving on to Central Africa, you guys couldn't yet decide on who gets to own the Kingdom of the Congo, but you did overwhelmingly vote that most of the surrounding regions should go to whomever gets the Congo itself, apart from Katanga, which you decided to give to whomever gains Zambia in a future round. The vote on who gets to own the Congo is one of the most exciting, with the leading candidates for now being Independence or Germany. But we'll have to see what round 2 brings. Angola and Mozambique would be kept in Portuguese hands. Now here, on the Guinean coast, we have Spain laying claim to the entire coastline. In our own timeline, they gave all of this up, only keeping small Equatorial Guinea. But, proud conquistadors that you guys are, Spain gets to keep their entire coastline. Now the final region with interesting results in round 1 is Eastern Africa. Most of East Africa is a toss-up between Germany, Britain, or the surprise contender, the Sultanate of Oman. That's right, Oman have holdings on the East African coastline, and they very well may keep it. For now though, each vote is too close to call. The Horn of Africa region sees crowd favorite Ethiopia establish their independence, but most of the votes for the surrounding regions are too close to call. With this, our first round of voting is over, and by far most of Africa is still up for grabs, with most votes looking something like this. What we did for round 2 is to remove all options apart from the top 5 and forcing those votes to be redistributed among the top 5. So hopefully, after round 2, Africa will be largely filled in. I'm sorry for the quick intermission, but by far most of you aren't subscribed. To keep up to date with all videos I release every single week, consider doing so. Thank you. Alright, so let's now dive right in and see some real partition. Let's start with South Africa, where the people could choose between the British annexing the Boer Republics or the Boer Republics annexing the Cape Colony. Overwhelmingly, the Boer
Both get annexed by the Southern colony, and both making independence and annexed the South
announced, so a Boer South African state is born. But they don't just stop there. They annex many of the regions around it in an absolutely devastating blow to British imperial ambition. But maybe the British make it up elsewhere. Let's take a look at Egypt. Alright, so all of Sudan goes to whomever gets Egypt, which Egypt itself is still a toss-up between Britain and the Ottomans. So it will have to go to round 3 to decide a victor. Britain does manage to secure the Suez, but the Ottomans own the Sinai, making the Suez very vulnerable should Britain not manage to gain Egypt. Moving west, we have Libya, which becomes fully Italian, giving them a respectable colony in the north. Algeria, though, has to move on to round 3, as both Spain and Italy face off in the final vote. Whoever wins this one will dominate North Africa. Oh yeah, and Spain also manages to get a piece of the Mauritanian desert, which makes me just hate the borders that I'm seeing now. Now during this conference, there was always the specter of a certain population. We do not like to speak of them. They only listen to Erica while wearing lederhosen and pickelhaubes while attempting to grow a Kaiserstache. That's right, I'm talking about the Kaiser and Wehrabus. Despite Germany not winning any votes yet, they have been a top runner in most votes. Remember when I removed all non-top 5 options? Germany was removed from, and I counted, exactly 0 of them. German dominance was strongest in the regions they did actually gain in real life, gaining inland Cameroon, as well as inland Kenya and Tanzania in round 2. Now the big issue with both, neither has secured a coastline yet. So for Germany's sake, let's hope that they manage to secure one at some point. Back to the Horn, the Ethiopians managed to expand their control massively, only missing out on Somalia, which the Italians still threaten to take. But even right now, Ethiopia is already a major player, securing themselves a coastline while controlling the entrance to the very important Red Sea trade. Now, for round 2, we only have one more region to carve up, Madagascar. And I think we can all guess who got it. That's right, Austria-Hungary. And legitimately this time. Now you may wonder what these dots inside Madagascar are, and I'm glad you asked. That's actually Israel. That's right, my viewers decided to put Israel inside of Austro-Hungarian Madagascar. In a sentence I would never expect anyone to say. But with that, round 2 is over, and there is still a lot of territory to decide upon. In this final round, All
I think
but two
Israel
options
is
are
more
removed from every
Israel
single vote,
than
meaning
Madagascar.
we are forced to get a majority in each one. Let's start with West Africa. France has been dominant in the votes in the region for a while now, and they finally achieved victory, ensuring they actually have a land connection to their Saharan colonies. But that's not all. You guys quite liked France's real colonial empire, as they also got their Central African colonies. Still, with the loss of Algeria, the French Empire is mostly desert now. But hey, speaking of Algeria, Italy or Spain? It's Spain. Spain just went from the weakest colonial power in our timeline to an absolute North African powerhouse in history. Good job. Another region so far undiscussed is Nigeria, mainly because the votes were extremely boring so far. Three nations have a chance here: Germany, Britain, and the wild card, the African state, Sokoto. The victor, perhaps unsurprisingly, would be the Sokoto Caliphate, grabbing up most of Nigeria as well as Ghana. But there is one obvious issue with this victory in Ghana. Sokoto failed to win any of the votes in between. The coastline would be won by none other than the Dutch, who managed to secure their only colony in Africa. Similarly, the land in between would be grabbed up by Denmark. I am really happy about this. Two powers which didn't get any colonies in our timeline at least get something now. But with Sokoto not being able to reach this territory, it goes to number 2, which is Britain. But wait, they don't have a coastline either. Alright, Germany. I'm sensing a pattern. Okay, option 4, Austria-Hungary. Right, the same issue. With a lack of better options, France, the 5th most voted option, gains a territory. I guess that's deserved? Oh yeah, and this small piece of coastline, holding Lagos, goes to Britain, our colonial dwarf. But hey, maybe the Brits will gain Egypt and restore their honor. Do they? Nope. In one of the most important land changes you guys voted on, the Ottomans keep a protectorate over Egypt, putting British trade from Asia at the mercy of the Ottoman Sultan. The British don't even have South Africa as an easy alternate route should anything happen to the Suez. Now moving down, what is the fate of Somalia? I think we all know. The Ethiopians managed to secure the Somalilands as well, expelling all potential colonists from the Horn of Africa. With the Ottomans in the north, who are in no position to expand, and their entire coastline under their control, preventing easy invasions, the Ethiopians seem in a great position for the future. Now the East African coast is left with two options: Germany, completing their East African colony, or Oman, the much more interesting option in my opinion, which would also leave the German colonies landlocked, which would result in this massive Omani Empire. How fun is that? Not that fun, according to you guys, as you decided to create a greater German East Africa. But that's not all for Germany, as they also managed to receive Namibia. By this point, Cameroon is still at risk though, as it lacks a coastline. But no worries, you guys decided to solve this in just about the worst way imaginable. Congo-Brazzaville is awarded to Germany, giving this horrible Central African colony, while Gabon, in a cruel twist of fate, goes to France. This is just about the worst border war imaginable.
Guys, feedback to my stupid, but if they do this again, can I not do this on like? I don't even know this. Israel here, Oman, part of Ethiopia? Yes. This is good, I think, yes. Namibia, yes, yes. Portugal gets this, yes. Yes. But this.
And I hate it. I really hate it. But it's time to address the elephant in the room, the Congo. The final 5 options left were Germany, perhaps the most interesting one, then Austria, Independence, Sweden, and finally Belgium. Which one managed to come out on top? It's Germany. The Kaiser will be very pleased to hear this, as perhaps the richest region of Africa.
Listen, or it's the richest thing, but as it is, it would have been bad if they cut this off, right? But now, they connected, but they can't because they can never invade it here.
Now falls under German occupation. Now let's carve up the final remaining lands. The south goes to the ever-expanding Boer Empire, who now pretty much control the entire south of the continent. Is this a sustainable empire? Absolutely not. But at least they look impressive on the map. Now realistically, there is only one nation the remaining territory can go to. That's right, the Portuguese realized their dream of the pink map, and I'm really happy for them. Now they can
I hope like Portugal, the same gonna happen, but like Portugal like won't get a queen like other Europe don't, but Portugal do. They mobilize the army and take back Angola and Mozambique, then they wait, build up money, which is lower tension Angola and Mozambique and take back
and they
Brazil.
are still relevant for just a little bit longer. Now comparing this to our own 1914 map,
This is
we can see there are some rough similarities, but perhaps the absolute biggest change is that Britain is now nearly fully absent from its alternate division of Africa. Now it may just be me, but I do imagine that excluding the greatest colonial empire in history from Africa will have some consequences. And these consequences will be explored this Thursday, as I will release a full-on history video on how this Africa will turn out, and how it would influence Europe going forward. Do subscribe to join me then. But before you leave, last Tuesday, you guys voted on an alternate map of Africa. If you haven't watched that video yet, click off now and watch it first for context. Final chance to click off? Alright. This is the monstrosity that you guys came up with. Some key aspects of the map: Britain got immensely screwed over, only gaining the Suez and Lagos, which is absolutely embarrassing for the imperial job. France then has still secured an impressive empire on the map, but don't be fooled. Most of their empire consists of empty desert. Their Central African holdings have no real way to be reached that don't go through deserts or hostile powers, but most importantly, they had to give up on Algeria, by far their most important African territory, which wasn't just ruled as a colony.
Like, this part is like, well, like, it's easy travel, let's say, like, they just get shit, and that France up here, if they got this, they could have just go zoom, but they have to go like, now they have to go the other side and go this way, which is longer than this way. Right? Libya, if, let's say, Italy had this, they can like block this. Ottomans are powerful, Ethiopia is powerful, Germany is powerful. And on this thing, Israel,
like the rest, but straight up ignorant of France itself. All in all, France too was heavily humiliated. Ethiopia is a major victim, not just securing their independence, but the entirety of the world.
This happens again, at least like, it's made like, it's this, somehow again, vote on, let's say, this borders where Germany gets this part, and France, and like Britain gets this, and like, just like gets this, like Egypt or Sudan, and Israel, not them.
Egypt, as we'll soon see,
Like, the whole
may be
position like fixes the changes. A tiny bit, where France gets this part of Algeria, Britain gets this, the whole of Sudan, a split, and maybe this part of France. You think it ain't raining, okay? And Oman. Why was Oman in here? Oman should be a part of this. I hope, and maybe like Nepal and Bhutan be a part of Britain.
Telling control over ships is also more impactful than you might think, as they can now wall off ships from either side of the Mediterranean. Spain controls an empire so large, many questions are raised about their ability to even keep it under control. But perhaps many questions are raised about
This is what I'm saying. Let's say they could have a bit of chance if like they didn't have this part, right? And like this part. This part is Germany, like top this one. Part this part Germany, this part Britain, and this part too, because alright. That'll be a good idea. Not like this, like maybe like just the normal top Nigeria borders. Ethiopia? Israel? No, why here? Okay? And let's say like, and what if like this, I know they're like Ethiopia, like just an African colony, the country that isn't colonized, this
their
becomes like,
ability to
just
keep
like
it under
threatened.
control. But perhaps the most evil decision of this alternate partition of Africa was the power that you gave to the Boers. The Boers were notorious for their
Boers.
pro-slavery, anti-African views, and they are now in control over the entire south of the continent. Finally, the Germans stand at the heart of Africa, controlling the Congo and proudly building the only east-to-west railway on the continent. Generally, being pretty content about their slice of the spoils. But with two angry imperial powers, a couple of weak and potentially unstable nations, and a Germany which, despite their success, is still keen on further expansion, there is only one future.
Like these two got fancy, okay. But at least like maybe like Germany does this, but like bring up more land.
For this one. The only question is, how do we get there? But first, we need to address an elephant in the room. Many of these states don't actually have the power to enforce these borders, and France and Britain would never just step away from Algeria or South Africa. Please, just ignore all of that.
Afrique, oui, oui, French thing, Afrique,
For whatever reason, these borders have become reality around 1884. But just because they're the reality doesn't mean that they have to be accepted or respected.
At least this is like this thing, man.
ChatGPT is great for quick answers, but when you need writing expertise, Grammarly is my go.
After the amazing success of the Congress of Vienna as vote theorist, but I think something is amiss. Turns out, last Tuesday, Arizona could those crowds expanding their control of the region? Not necessarily. What this does mean is that the British attempt to turn the Ottomans into an indirect puppet. To the outside world, the British doubled down hard on keeping the Ottomans intact, as any Ottoman instability could result in unrest in Egypt, which is simply unacceptable. But towards the Ottomans themselves, the message is also clear. Britain uses their economic and naval assets to force the Sultan to align with them, with a constant reminder, we could conquer Egypt in the blink of an eye, and good luck with facing the Russians by yourself. So, for now, peace and the borders you established remain, but not for long, as there is a reason that Spain got so few colonies in our timeline. They simply have no hope of actually holding them. Their economy was terrible, their political situation was chaotic at best, and they all...
There's people, let's say views like these, let's say views vote to land area, or if views can vote to like shit.
Spain get a bigger GDP, bigger happiness.
already have
And like bigger, like maybe like should grow as like the next generation of military weapon, or the second. One side votes for the next generation or second generation. Who knows? That'll be like more complicated.
small colonies on Cuba and the Philippines, which the US had invaded. So, at the first sign of Spanish weakness, the French would move against the Spanish, completely embarrassing them. While sponsoring a Moroccan uprising,
Right.
forcing their autonomy.
Listen, the person came to my yacht is. She's on the go there, so I need to be quiet. So I need to be talking about. But please like and subscribe. And please, like maybe comment like in your grandma, something about your grandma, right? My grandma makes good food. She's kind and also hard. She has Grandma Goose. Grandma Goose, oh.
under the French. Obviously, the other great powers would also get involved, causing a diplomatic crisis. But I very much doubt that Germany would want to start a war over a collapsing Spanish Empire. This crisis would be resolved diplomatically. France crushes Spanish West Africa with an autonomous Moroccan protectorate.
Oh, good. Yes.
France
Okay. Okay, guys, listen. This is better. Look more. Like the normal thing. The rest is still there. Germany, still, look. It's good, you know. Like, maybe if, like, this becomes this and that, it'll be better.
crushes Spanish West Africa with an autonomous Moroccan protectorate. In exchange, the Germans are the ones that seize the Spanish Guinean coast while also gaining colonial territories from the French. Now, only Britain demands concessions. It is very likely that the British have purchased the Danish colony at some point, since the territory just cost the Danes a lot to maintain, while they gain very little from it. From this small outpost, the British would get great power approval to overthrow the Sokoto Caliphate anyways, finally giving the Brits a colony that they can feel happy about, and solving the Spanish crisis in a way that leaves everyone happy. But between the great powers, there is now little room for negotiation, and as the decades go on, increasingly clear battle lines are being drawn. In the West are the French and the British allying up, who are favored by Italy, the Ottomans, albeit forcefully, and Russia, although far less enthusiastically than in our time. On the other side is Germany, which is supported by pretty much just Austria-Hungary. On the African continent though, the Germans are now far more powerful, especially if we assume that the Ottomans remain.
Look, 83%, and democracy gets 17%. Hey, good idea.
Neutral, as only a couple of elite divisions would be enough to hold the Nigerian-Cameroon border. At the same time, control over the Congo would absolutely be an economic bonus for the Germans. In terms of Austria-Hungary, let's zoom in a bit on Madagascar, because these dots indicate land set aside for Jewish settlers to found their own state in. But let's be honest, most Jews will prefer to move to America rather than settle in the Madagascar highlands. Despite the Madagascar plan being a nice gesture from the European powers, it would absolutely fail in practice, a new Israel in Madagascar.
What would be cool is like, it did a lot here. Like, let's say it works here, it's like Germany like 150 years early. I think I've said that before, but it'll be a cool plot
remains nothing more than an interesting historical tidbit.
Or like the German Empire, or like France, like after World War I, get the land, get the land they wanted from Germany, to get the land and push forward into Germany's land, and then get Luxembourg and
But back to you,
Belgium.
in our own timeline.
Like this, like this, and then Luxembourg too. I think maybe I call it again parts of like parts of Belgium.
The Balkan went through a radical restructuring, only 2 years before the actual outbreak of the war, as the quadruple threat of the Balkan League would declare war on the Ottomans, swiftly overrunning the Turkish positions and expelling them from the Balkan. All of this only happened
is this Bosnia?
because the Italians went to war with the Turks first, showing the Turkish weakness. But with Libya already in Italian hands and British oversight over the Turks, this Italian war wouldn't happen. So, the Balkan War wouldn't happen. Meaning, whenever a world war does break out, the Balkan theater looks completely different, with the Ottoman Empire leaning towards the Entente. This could mean two things. First, the Balkan nations lean towards the Central Powers, which would make Russia's position in the Entente really awkward, especially because Russia's main goal in World War I was capturing Constantinople and strengthening their pan-Slavic brethren against the Turks and the Austrians. So, alternatively, I will explore a version of World War I that I have never seen anyone do before. To prevent the Balkan nations from siding with the Germans and for the Russians to have a shot at claiming Constantinople, Russia forms a third alliance, sympathetic but not fully allied with the Entente. So, we will assume something causes a war between Britain and France on one side and Germany and Austria on the other side, yet, for now, Russia just observes. I'm sorry for the quick intermission, but by far most of you
Okay,
aren't
this thing's the
subscribed. To
same.
keep up
Like, how long is because we're going to start in 1802? Working in Europe. Who is from 1929? Europe. Look at Belgium. Who is from 1940? Europe. And what is China doing with some powers, making Europe perfect? 3 bands in 1929. From Japan. The Daigachi Alexander's Empire fell in 1880. But Germany just kept
today the two videos.
What is useful need for the time because I can test failure on you.
I release every single week. Consider doing so. Thank you. The Germans immediately crossed the Belgian border, barreling down the French lines. With a weaker Belgium and no immediate Russian involvement, the Germans managed to even capture Paris, almost breaking the French. But the French realized that surrendering now would mean German hegemony in Europe. This is their only chance. They need to hold on. As British forces arrive in France, the Germans are forced to retreat slightly to more defendable lands and consolidate their lines. Having a hostile city of 1.8 million people on the front lines is probably not ideal. So Paris falls back into French control. Either way, a devastating blow to French morale and power. To further complicate matters, the colonial war initially favors the Germans as well, who hold the narrow Cameroon-Nigeria border. The Entente do still have naval supremacy though, and so they hold the long-term advantage. All of this means that Portugal suddenly becomes an important player, as their entrance in the war
They could be forced from curves that go up and down. If it was Austria didn't have a colony, well, then can do a counter.
would surely cause the German colonial empire to collapse. But we're not there yet. As in Europe, we have to contend with an even greater crisis. Russia and their allies start a parallel war with the Ottomans, after ignoring French calls to join the war. After all, if Russia doesn't strike the Ottomans now, and the Entente win the war, Britain will never allow them to. So, Russian and Balkan forces barrel down the Ottomans in astonishing speed. And the Russian gamble pays off, as Britain just
Another big thought is like, they did a lot effort before World War I. What if Russia had industrialization to have the first generation of tanks and the next generation of battleships and
doesn't have the
trains?
resources available to defend the
I think
Turks,
that'd be good.
as doing so would indirectly add Russia to the Central Powers. Instead, British forces reinforced their position in the Suez, Cyprus and Arabia, and without
Yes,
warning, launched their own invasion of the Ottoman Empire, occupying Iraq and marching down the Nile. In the face of British and Russian invasions, and no allies coming in to save them,
Oh my god. Hateful.
simply accepts their fate. Russia directs the partition of the Balkan portion of the empire, seizing Constantinople and forts around the Bosphorus, finally achieving
It should have been like, he pushed outward London.
their Mediterranean access. The rest of the Balkan gets carved up between Bulgaria, Serbia,
Hey,
and Greece.
Serbia
The Russians also seize massive territories in the east.
Oh,
The rest
never
of the
mind.
Ottoman Empire practically becomes a British puppet, while Egypt itself would be directly annexed by the British. But back to the main war. The Germans, for now, have the upper hand, making minor offensives, but failing to seriously break through. And time is ticking. The British not only have naval supremacy, but perhaps more importantly, Germany not only have naval supremacy, but perhaps more importantly, Germany is hopelessly alone. No European state is even considering joining them. In fact, most are considering joining the Entente. Especially the risk of a late Russian entry has the Central Powers terrified. By now, the Russians no longer have a reason to fight the Entente, but especially the concept of carving up the Austrian Empire is interesting to them. Perhaps in exchange for Entente recognition of the new Balkan borders, the Russians could be persuaded. But the actual first domino that falls comes from Italian entry into the war. This finally wakes the Austrians up, who have left most of the fighting to the Germans up to this point. On the African front too, the Portuguese decide that the time has come for intervention, lauding in the beginning of the end for the Central Powers in Africa. But obviously, the biggest blow comes when the Russian giant enters the war in the east.
If, like, let's say he makes Russian Empire the industries, right? That would mean,
Let's say they have better industry through all this, and like have the next generation industries, and better guns, better aircraft, better battleships, they could push through better.
Getting the Balkan powers involved.
it's like saying, what if Britain had a second made it first?
The second generation of tanks would have, I think, was stronger than the first, right? It would have helped Britain even more. Or like the play they had before World War II,
But they had the third generation, the generation, the second generation, the generation after that.
As well. This would spell the end of the Central Powers' chances to win the war. But there is yet hope for the Kaiser. The Russians, under Nicholas II, don't have many demands of the Germans, and begin to push for a negotiated end to the conflict. With no realistic hope at victory, the Germans, reluctantly, grab this lifeline, hoping to negotiate from this slight position of power. The peace conference would still be devastating for the Central Powers though. Russia would be the reasonable one amongst the Entente, minimizing the German losses in Europe to a bit of land in Poland and Alsace and Saarland.
You have a perfect chance to have like, why not just like, bum 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 bum, da 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 da. You would have a lot of land.
Minimizing the German losses in Europe to a bit of land in Poland and Alsace and Saarland in the west. Austria-Hungary is less likely. The Russians themselves seize Galicia, while they also have to give up Romanian majority territories in Transylvania and Slav majority areas to Serbia, with the exception of the territories promised to Italy, as Italy too flexes their muscle after the war. But the remainder gets to live on as an Austro-Hungarian empire, at least for now. This European peace is significantly less harsh on the Germans and...
Let's say he put like the Netherlands joined and Denmark, they get the land, and they could have gotten this strip, and then could have pushed through. Let's say they joined with Italy, they could have pushed through and it'll be harsher, right? Meaning they get land here, and
Austro-Hungary. But the colonial peace deal isn't. British participation against Germany was pretty much fully focused on gaining a respectable colonial empire after the war. East Africa is seized by Britain, and importantly, Congo, the heart of Africa, is too. The Portuguese would see a minor expansion of their empire. Madagascar.
Let's say you joined in, like, Turkey joined in like maybe a few days before World War II ended. They didn't get anything, I think, maybe. But let's say Portugal joined in later, right? Let's say they joined now, they would have had bigger teams,
gains
right?
most of the remaining Central African territories. It seizes Madagascar and gains most of the remaining Central African territories. Italy, as a token, thank you, gets Namibia. With this, Africa has ended up even more centralized in the hands of a select few colonial empires. But the situation we leave Europe in, for now, is even more drastic. The fate of Germany is unclear. While the Kaiser was humiliated, he wasn't driven out by a revolution or a collapsing front line. It was a negotiated peace. Germany could stay on as a Kaiserreich, perhaps, if criticism on Wilhelm II is too great, with Wilhelm III taking charge instead. But whatever the internal situation of Germany is, they remain on as a, albeit humbled, great power in Europe. Austria-Hungary would come under the rulership of Kaiser Karl, who was a peace and reform-minded man. Perhaps, in an ironic twist of fate, for the continuation of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the lost territory is a blessing, not a curse. Most of the lost territory was amongst the poorest in the empire, and now there are far fewer aggressive neighbors willing to take their land. And and far fewer nationalities demanding independence. The dual monarchy would evolve into a triple monarchy, with the Czechs and the Slovaks getting the third crown and the Austro-Hungarian Czechoslovak Empire being born, though I prefer the name the Triple Monarchy.
Okay, and I wish he did something after the peace treaty of World War I. Like, but people didn't exist what became possible.
And that's a situation we leave Europe for now. But a new conflict looms. The imperial Western democracies grow increasingly opposed to the Russians and their Balkan sphere. Meanwhile, Italy is exploring a new government form under their new dictator, Benito, carving out a third way in Europe. But all eyes remain on the former Central Powers. What role will they play in the upcoming power struggle, and who will...
And how, like, let's say he comes back to me, but how could you, like, hey guys, how about this? Who do you want for it to get, like, the second generation of weaponry? Do you want Russia, Britain, or France, or any other country? Or do you want a war where in Asia, Russia gets some land in China? Yes or no? Or America, or Britain, like, gets more land in North America, in North and South America, let's say get in Argentina, Chile, or they get, like, you know, America, they get more land of America, USA,
come out of it. And that's where I'll end this video, but I'm thinking of making a continuation for this scenario. Let me know in the comments if that is something you would be interested in and what you think may happen next. Thank you all for watching, and consider leaving a like and a comment to support the content. Subscribe for 2...
I hate Jet to Holiday. The song is so funny.
Throw. The final Axis powers have been defeated, but disagreements over the future of the world are threatening to tear apart former allies. Luckily,
I'm gonna watch the rest, but as it is, when you guys like and subscribe, go to Possible Like History, because of history, please do like what if how you started ruling over Africa, it continues, right? Now it changes a bit, right? Let's say Britain before gotten a bit more land, or like they got to like the Middle East, like connecting India of the pocket of Tarzan, and let's say like, and do a bit more complicated, let's say like you just land should like become a fascist communist democracy, or like should like, let's say which country should add this, should make the certain, which country, let's say when they should like when Britain made tanks, should they have the normal way, or the second generation, or the third generation, or should Britain have when they made the machine gun, the normal way, or the second or third, same thing, or like should Britain, right, or like should, which country should have the next generation of weaponry, like military, let's say, in order to choose Spain, Russia, France, Germany, United Kingdom, or something else. Yes, I think that would be a good idea, making it like how my views, the continuation of how my views like World War II over Africa. Okay? What I would like to see that, right? But I want to see a few changes, like there's like more advances there. Let's say like France have locked them, part of them, and have the borders they wanted in like World War I, right? And like parts of Belgium, Netherlands had parts of Germany, like they pushed through, like more land in the east, and Denmark had their own old land, and you know the like the croissant state, like the land, Russia is a bit more hard, and getting like a bit more bigger chunks. And the line that like when the Austria-Hungary was left, the strip, right? It should go to Romania, alright? And I think a few lands should be a part, that Romania part should be Russian, and Romania should be like the friends with the Russians. Okay, that'd be a good idea. Leading to something. Should it like be, or should it be, for the views involved, Hey guys, do you think when I do this, should Russia and France and Britain should be allies, and should like should Spain be allies to Russia, No. Right? These seem to be a good idea. You made a poll, but it's more complicated. Like, let's say, a poll where France should be fascist, communist, or democracy. Or no. Or should Britain take over America? Yes or no? Or should Britain have like a better economy? Should Britain have a bigger population? Or should Russia have a bigger population, like a double population? A 3 times population, a 2 times population, or like a percentage, like 100% population boost, a 50% population boost, a 35% population boost, and so on. It'll be more complicated and more fun. As it is, like I said for my channel, with the possible history, he's at like maybe £256,000, getting to £300,000 subscribers. As it is, like and subscribe, and I'll be out.